Coming to you live from downtown Detroit, this is Benzinga's PreMarket Prep with your host, Joel Elconin.
This is a volatile puppy here, isn't it?
And Dennis Dick.
I'm bidding a penny. I will buy the stock for a penny.
With everything you need to start your trading day.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Friday edition of Benzinga's PreMarket Prep. Spencer Israel, Dennis Dick. Today's guest is Joel Elconin. Yes, he is back from the great white north in northern Michigan. So welcome back, Joel. He will be our guest today for the entirety of the show. As far as what's on our radar, a lot. Netflix, obviously, Netflix is down, yet the Qs are up. Go figure. BlackRock reported record inflows into their bond ETFs. I wonder why. We've got some more vaccine news this morning. We've got a partnership we want to talk about that was announced yesterday in the Airlines. We'll take questions from our chat. The U.S. pushed back their ban on cruise ship sales in U.S. waters. So a lot to get to on the show today. I'll bring Joel on. Joel, I guess first off, how was your vacation in northern Michigan?
Well, first of all, I'm blushing here with all the hellos and welcome back.
I should mention on the first day you were gone, what was it, Monday? Someone in the chat goes, "This show sucks without Joel."
Yeah, I'm really proud of you.
Was that you?
I'm really proud of Lisa, and I'm sure you guys did a great job. I'm glad to be back. Let me run down the markets as usual, and then I only got one story, one vacation story for you. S&Ps are in the green here by 15 and a quarter handles. Did my levels really tight ranges over the last couple days? You got a rock solid bottom here, believe it or not, at 31.88 and a 50. Absolute no downside until we take that out. On the upside, you got a couple pesky highs, and I'll use Wednesday's high at 32.33 and a quarter. That's your breakout. That's your, hey, we're going to 3,300 level. Crude's still hanging out. Crude is down 46 cents here at 40.49, and crude still hanging around the $40 level for the longest time. Gold up $7 at 1807.20, still hanging out at 1800. Cannot make that clear breakout. Silver's in the red by nearly 3 cents here, hanging out just above $19 at 1954.5. And man, you guys just can't move Bitcoin here. Bitcoin still in that trading range between 9,000 and 9,500. Triple D, I gave you a little bit of hint of my boat story, but do you want to hear the whole thing?
Yeah, I want to hear all the stories. You take a week off, we got to get at least one story from you, because I was struggling. I tell you, when you're away, they keep throwing the technicals to me, and I don't do the technicals nearly as well as Mr. Elconin. We know I trade on logic. I can kind of do the technicals a bit, but I struggled, so I missed you. So anyways, give me a good boat. Give me a good story, at least, for all my technical trouble that I had.
Okay, so we rented a pontoon boat. My family and my nephew, who I got to play a lot of golf with. And it was, I don't know, maybe, what are pontoon boats? Like 35 feet, something like that, right?
It's a big boat.
Yeah, it's a big boat. I have zero boat experience.
Are you like John Candy in Summer Rental? Do you remember that movie?
No, I do not.
John Candy, Summer Rental, and they got him out there sailing, and he's in this little sailboat, and he's at the big boat. He's like, well, the little boat always has the right of way. The little boat always has the right of way. And he just rams the big boat. Obviously, it's the big boat that has the right of way. Were you like John Candy out there? Were you hitting other boats?
You're getting warm.
Oh, God, no. Oh, no. This is going to be a good story.
Okay.
Go.
Just quick preface. On this boat ride, you go from Crooked Lake to Crooked River, okay? And there's a reason they call it Crooked River, is because it's really crooked, okay? You got to do a lot of turns. You have to go through a locks. You have to have a bridge swing out towards you, a lot of things. But I got through all that, and then there was one point where I just had to make a left turn. like a straight left turn, right? And in front of me is maybe this docked on Crooked Rivers, maybe this 50-foot cruiser. And I'm like, well, that's a good idea for me to stay away from that, right? So
this is John Candy and
so
Sunrise.
I'm leaning left a little bit, right? I'm like it going slow. I barely over neutral, and coming from the other way is a lady in a boat, and she is not looking at all. And my first instinct, I didn't even know where the horn was. I whistled, all right, and she gets all startled. And she steers in away from the boat, the big boat. So that sends me out towards the big boat. So I'm going towards this huge cruiser, and then I cleared her boat, and I start cutting it left. I don't want to hit the boat, so I start cutting it left. I'm cutting it left. And then I'm looking at the dock. I'm looking at the side, and I'm like, I'm going to hit this. I'm going to hit this for sure. And the guy that owned the boat just happened to be out on his dock. And he's like, reverse.
Throw it in reverse, quick.
This is not so funny, Dennis.
It's scary at the time, but it's really funny now.
I jammed it into reverse, right? And I'm going backwards, and I'm like, for 2 seconds. And he goes, forward. And I'm like, oh my God. So I jam it in forward, right? And the next thing is I hear, good thing you only missed my boat by a foot.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, so you didn't hit the boat.
I did not hit the boat. I did not hit the dock. And I was a little bit shaken up after that.
You're like, Lisa, you got to drive the boat for a little while here.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit shaken up.
But that's it. I'm done. I'm done with boats.
You're done with your boating after this?
I'm done. Yeah, I got through the lot. I'm not renting boats anymore. And in fact, two of the
and you had guts to go through the locks. That's something to go through. I don't know if any for the boaters out there, like we've got locks by my place and I go through them, but I've been doing it for a lot of years now. To just go through, run a boat and go through the locks? It's an intimidating thing to do. It's tight in there. And the other boaters are looking at you with hate when you're coming in there with a little bit too much speed.
Oh, you got it. No, it was but overall it just turned out to be, it was fun. We went swimming. I did a little tubing, and I'm back alive. So no more boating for me. But we got a lot.
Well, you go from Crooked Lake to the Crooked Markets. What's going on?
No, you go Crooked Lake, Crooked River to Burt Lake, which is like an ocean.
Burt.
And then you go Burt Lake. No, not spelled like our Burt. And then you have to come all the way back. But enough of the boating stories. Let's get to some earnings here, right? We're in earnings season, right?
We had a big one last night, and this has repercussions across the whole entire market. Let's go, Spencer Israel. This is your cue.
All right, let's go with the Netflix here. EPS $1.59 versus $1.81 estimate, so they missed that number. Sales 6.14 for $6.08 billion, so they beat that number. So mixed on the headline numbers. As far as net subscriber additions, expectations were high, but they beat them. A little over 10 million new subscribers added last quarter versus the 8 million analyst expectation and the 7 million guidance that they had previously given. But speaking of guidance, that's where the problems lie. Their guidance for the EPS and revenue for the current quarter was mixed, but more importantly, they said we only expect to add 2.5 million net subscribers this quarter. The analysts were thinking they would add more than 5 million, so they came in more than halfway lower than where the analysts were thinking as far as net subscriber adds for this current quarter we're in right now.
So the quarter wasn't as good as we thought it might be. I tried to play this, and I went from trying to be a hero on it to a zero. I got whipped around on this pretty good, lost some money. So moral of the story is I always say, try not to, just take gambles and trade these leaders. I like to trade the laggards. And for some reason, I thought I had one of my best days of the year the day before. So I was like, I could trade Netflix too on these numbers. And no, I got hit pretty good. So, obviously I'm probably the only trader on Twitter that lost money trading Netflix, but I did last night try to trade and I lost. I'm already out of the trade, so I can freely talk about it, but I got smacked around pretty good on it. Down 42 points here. This had repercussions for the entire tech sector as of last night. Every tech stock was getting slammed on it. But for whatever reason, this morning, they had the buy the dip shoes come in and they decided, nah, we don't care about Netflix earnings. We're just going to buy all the tech stocks anyway. So Apple has reversed and went positive significantly. Microsoft, which was down significantly last night, has turned around and went positive. Amazon, which was down as much as 40 points last night, is now almost scratched. So you've seen a big turnaround in a lot of the big tech names that were getting hit in sympathy with Netflix. Let's go to our technical analyst who is back on the desk here, though, and to get you some levels for NFLX.
You had the real quick drop here, and that's what the Netflix bears have been waiting for forever. You finally got a dip straight down.
That was me puking out my long, that big dip.
What'd you say?
That was me puking out my long, that big dip.
So 449.65. Lows in, folks. I'm feeling pretty strongly about that today. You put in a double bottom on the 15-minute, and then you rallied up to 500 off that. So 50-point rally. So I'll call it like 475 and change your point of control. Looks like you're right. As of right now, you're finding, pretty good support just above 480. Man, we haven't been in the 400 handle in a long time. So let's look at you just got to call this whole 450 area. You might not get it to play today, but holding above 450, that's a pre-market low. That's a couple daily lows that you had back in early July. So I can show you here on the daily charts. There it is, that 450 area. It's important. And 500 on the upside. So kind of no man's land. I'm sorry, Dennis. I guess you tried to buy the dip just a little bit too early.
Yeah. I thought, those numbers are pretty good. No, not so much.
So did you try and catch it?
Don't even talk. I actually I'm lucky I was trading with a really small size. I'll just say that much because I got hit pretty hard on it. I didn't want to talk about it. It was an ugly trade for me, but luckily I traded it. If you're going to trade an earnings play, you trade it with really small size. And I took 1/10 of my normal size position and I still got smacked around on it. So definitely if you're going to play and you want to gamble with just a little bit of money. So I got done after the trade was about 3 minutes long and out of it. And I said to myself, I deserve to lose that money. I said that to myself. Sometimes you're like, this market got me. No, I got me. I deserve to lose that money. So
why did they hit on Tuesday? They hit this. This was just because of just for the fact
rotation station. They were hitting everything on Tuesday when you were gone. All the Momo names came off. Shopify, Tesla had the big reversal, and then it had followed through on Tuesday as well. So it was just basically sell all the Momo, all the higher growth tech names that everybody's been hiding out in.
How does this, what does this do for your stay at home, reopen plays? I mean, I'm sure you talked a lot about that this week. I mean, we've gotten a lot of good vaccine news. The
vaccine news continues to drive the reopening stocks here. And you know what? The stay at home trade, I think, and I was saying it when you were away, I think a lot of those stocks topped out. I think, Tesla's in a stay-at-home trade, but it's been moving along and it does its own thing. But I feel like there is a lot of money hiding in high-growth tech, and that trade has cooled off now. It's cooled off for the last couple days. Is it going to get hot again? Maybe, but if we go and, we continue to not care about the virus, which is apparent, with the cases going up in Texas, California, rumors yesterday that they're going to start closing up Texas. I mean, that's all terrible news from a fundamental basis. BlackRock CEO on CNBC this morning, and they asked him to compare this crisis with the financial crisis, and he thought that this crisis was worse. Market doesn't care. Doesn't care what doesn't care what the CEO of BlackRock thinks. It just wants to buy. This market just wants to go higher. And if it can't go down on all the bad headlines that we've had, it's hard to just say, I'm going to short and it's eventually going to all come to roost. I thought it's going to come to roost a long time ago. It never did. So I'm fully off the bear train. I'm kind of just full market neutral now. I don't know where we're going to go tomorrow. I don't know where we're going to go a week from now. I don't know where we're going to go 6 months from now. But I'm going to still buy the dip and sell the rip and play the chop because that's what continues to work.
All right. What else do we have for earnings, Mr. Israel?
Well, speaking of BlackRock, it's notable for what they said. So they had earnings out this morning. They beat on their EPS. They beat on their sales. But Larry Fink in the statement said that, surprise, surprise, they had record inflows into their fixed income products. I wonder who was buying bond ETFs last quarter. I can't think of anybody who was doing that.
Does it rhyme with dead?
It might.
Does it start with an F?
So anyway,
what I want to know is do they trade commission free?
Does the Fed trade commission free?
I actually heard I heard
they got a Robinhood account
in a podcast that I listened to that they had paid, I think, around $300,000 in commissions. I don't know how recent that data is from, but that's what I had.
So we think the Fed does not trade commission free.
I don't believe
so. The Fed using the taxpayer dollars doesn't trade commission free. This is okay. I think we need to start up official protest. We want the Fed to open up a Webull account, a Robinhood account. There's so many free apps out there. Fed, if you're going to trade, you might as well trade commission free because the taxpayers don't like a $300,000 commission bill. Thank you very much.
Just adds to the deficit. And I wondered, like, if they give them a bad fill, like who gets on the phone and bitches about it? Is it like Mnuchin or is it Trump? Does Trump get in?
It's nobody because it's not their money. It's the taxpayer dollars.
Oh,
and the taxpayer doesn't really know what they're buying. So
Do
nobody complains. The brokerages love the Fed as a customer. Obviously, we don't think they have a Robinhood account, but it's kind of funny.
Does anybody trade BlackRock here? Because I don't even know if
it is a hard stock to trade. I try to trade this. It is thin. It is, it's hard. Like you get 100 shares and you got to give up $200 on the spread. It's a tough stock to trade any day. And on an earnings day, it's even tougher. So you can give some levels here. It's been an unbelievable stock for a long time. It's right near the all-time highs.
Yeah. You know what? If no one's getting down and dirty in it, then you see the major resistance up there at we didn't quite make the all-time high back to February, but pretty close. So if no one's trading it, as you would say, Dennis, next.
Let's move away from the earnings because they're all boring from here. Yep. I want to go over to what is hot. Space, SPCE.
Yeah, I regret this. This was in the chat yesterday. I wanted to bring it up, but we ran out of time. I wish we had talked about it yesterday because it was hot. We've
talked about it for a long time, and everybody knows I'm still long, so I'm pretty happy about that.
So they announced yesterday morning, Wednesday afternoon, they announced a new CEO, and that helped the stock get started yesterday. But then there was another catalyst, Dennis, that is the reason for this move this morning.
So wait, they got a new CEO. So isn't Branson the CEO, or he just runs? No, he just owns the company.
He's the founder. He's on the board.
He just runs everything. So he's above the CEO.
Yes. But they hired Michael Coglasier, if I got that right. He was from Disney. They poached him from Disney.
Coglasier.
S&Ps are ripping here, folks. We are now up over 20 handles. Not much up until you get closer to 32.30. Tuesday's high up there, 33.25. Wet Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's over. We're going, folks. 32.30. That's what the market has on its mind right now.
One thing to remember, and which is sliding under the radar, and we're going to come back to space in a second. Don't worry. It is options expiration Friday. And the imbalances are wicked to the buy side right now. Wicked, like big buy imbalances here across the board. So I think that's a little bit to do with it. Again, it is options expiration Friday. So the buy imbalances you see now may not be there an hour from now. But as of right now, if we were to open up, we would open up significantly higher. So we're going to keep tracking the buy imbalances. But I'm seeing big ones across the board. Some examples like Bank of America, 264,000 to buy. AT&T, 344,000 to buy. Verizon, 191,000 to buy. It's Johnson & Johnson. They're all over the place. They're all big buy imbalances every. Exxon Mobil, 172,000 to buy. So they're big. But again, there's going to be big players coming in, and there might be one player that comes in and says, you got them. You know, I'll sell 300,000 into this, and then the stock could open up the other way. So that's the consideration here, is that, you know, there is option expiration. That's going to make this open wild. So if you're looking at the market saying, what the hell is it doing up when Netflix is down 40 points? Option expirations does some funny things. Let's go back to space.
Okay, well,
I love
just
space.
real quick,
I'm all about space.
Okay, we gotta, before we do that, I mean, you just took me on like 37 tangents here.
I like doing that.
I'm glad to be back. I'm following your train of thought here. But
that's good. You never usually do that.
A young man here in the chat, I don't want to pronounce the name, Goncola, is where can we see data on options expirations? And I'm not sure what you mean by data, but in this, I mean, there's a couple standard things you can count on. The first thing is the third Friday of every month is an options expiration for stocks and stock index futures and whatever you're trading out there. So that's one thing that you got to be aware of. There's also weekly options that expire every Friday, and those are playing with gunpowder. They have a lot of premium erodes very, very quickly. And now the spider, I look, they have Monday options, they have Wednesday options. So, you know, go to the SIBO or go to the options in OIC, Options Industry Council. And
when are hourly options coming out? That's what I want to know. We'll have the 3 o'clock expiration, the 3:30 expiration. Okay, see, exchanges, listen, I got a good idea for you.
Please.
I want an hour option. I just want to buy for the next hour. So it's 10:30. I think this is going up by 11:30.
I think they used to have those on some of the binary platforms.
Did they?
Yeah, they did. I can't remember which ones, but I'm not sure if they're around anymore. Space.
Are we ever getting back to space?
Yes, 23. 23.
I need levels, Joel. I need your levels on space.
No, Dennis, you're holding this one.
What do I do?
You're not going to get out and sell it and say, "Oh, you shouldn't have sold it. Oh, I can't believe I sold it. I'm never going to get it back."
I have FIFO.
Yeah, I can't believe Shopify.
FIFO,
you're going to Shopify this stock is what you're going to do. You're going to Shopify it. You're gonna sell it. So let me know when you sell it.
I probably am going to Shopify it. I'm the one that'll call it. I've been saying space. I think it could go to $50. I don't know if I've said on the show, but I'm saying it. I think it could go to $50 because I think it's a storied stock. I'm probably going to sell it like 25, and then it'll be 50 6 months from now. I'll be like, why did I sell 25? Because I'm a scalper and I can't help myself.
Did you say what Mr. Grasso said? Did we said the reason why?
Yeah, so anyway, so last night, so if you want to know the catalyst, why the hell is space up another 10%? Thanks Steve Grasso on CNBC's Fast Money. That is your catalyst. Last night, it was his final trade. And I'll tell you, Steve Grasso moves stocks. And he says something, it moves. And it even moves before he starts saying it. So, because it was moving last night up, and then it popped out of his mouth, and then it really ran. So, Algo's got a pretty good, or whoever's got that, Intel's doing pretty well. Anyways, SPCE up $2.22. He said last night, he says, this has went up 80% since I started talking about it. I think it's going up another 80%. And when he said that, it instantaneously blasted off 50 cents, like instantaneously. So there's definitely a Steve Grasso. Steve Grasso, if you're listening, congratulations. You have an HFT algorithm that is actually listening to your speech, because that went in milliseconds. Because I went back and looked at the tape and looked at when you said it, and it was unbelievable how quick that went. Milliseconds after it was out of your mouth, it was up 2%. And it swept, and they bought a lot of stock. So there's a Steve Grasso algorithm out there that just listens to what Steve Grasso says on CNBC's Fast Money and buys or sells when he says,
what is
especially
swept,
his last
Dennis?
trade, the final trade. You know, that's what they're looking at.
What does swept mean?
What is swept? It means it takes out multiple levels in a stock. So when I say swept, and I probably should, you know, for most traders out there, maybe not realize that. So if I say it's swept, you know, the book, it means it took out like 23, or it took, and this was when the stock was at 21, took like 21, 21.20, 21.30, 21.40, 21.50, 21.60, instantaneously just bought every stock in there. And then, you know, obviously, and it's making a lot of money because the thing's at 23.15 here this morning. So I don't know if there's any other news here this morning. It was trading up around 22 last night after the dust settled. Now it's up another $1.23. So maybe it's just continued momentum. But when you talk these retail loved names, and all of a sudden, you know, like, and you've got, you know, the fast money influence that it does, it can really push price. And this is up because Steve Grasso liked it last night.
All right, I was looking at the technicals there. You do have a high at 23.24. That coincides with where we're trading in the pre-market. So let's keep an eye on that. On March 6th, you hit 23.28, and within a couple days, within 10, 12 trading sessions, you were under $10. So just be aware of that. The next daily high comes in at 24.34. I'm just not feeling it in my old lazy vacation bones that we're going to get up another stick there. But if you do see 24.34, just be aware that, that was right when we were starting getting the COVID is starting to get hit. So a lot of people are getting their money back at that level. The last thing, Dennis, I just want to ask you, I know that you put this in your long-term portfolio.
Yeah.
So you did a little better job. When you originally said that, you were using like 14.5, 15.
Right in there to lean on it. It held all that.
It was shaking. It shook you a couple times.
It did. I almost sold it a couple times. I was like,
why didn't you?
Well, it never really totally breached that level. Like it kind of, hung out. But if you look, you can see that hung the support. It never really went under 14. It would have started going 13 in the 13 handle. I would have got really nervous with that position. So I got in from around 16. I said, I'm going to give myself into that 14 support area. And that 14 support area just held. So here's an example of, I'm limiting my risk on this long-term investment because I don't want the story to start to break down. And I've just said on space, I think the story can get hot. If you analyze you can't analyze this from a fundamental base. I mean, you can say, oh, there's going to be people that want to do this and travel to space. But you can't analyze it from a CFA perspective where I'm going to look at the balance sheet. I'm going to look at the revenue. There is no revenue. So it's all just concept right now. But there's a lot of smart people working over at this company. I think the story is excellent. And we know it has the Musk factor too. And what I mean by that is whenever SpaceX does something successfully, SPCE seems to get some love, even though it has nothing to do with SpaceX. It's like, this is like a pure play. And if SpaceX is getting headlines, people are like, oh, I like the concepts of trading on space. And here's a pure space play with a fantastic ticker symbol. Sometimes it's just simple thinking like that. And I think this story has the potential to get hot. I've been talking about it for a long time. I bought this 2 months ago. The story has stayed cold for 2 months. Finally, it's starting to get hot. So I've been waiting this out for 2 months for the story to eventually get hot. I think it does. It's the same thing why I have LCA. I think eventually LCA's story gets hot too. I've been hanging on to this only for about a week and a half, but it's going to be Golden Nugget Gaming. I like the online gaming, and I think, there's sports betting possibilities in there as well. So I think it's like a DraftKings. So I think that story gets hot again. And when you're investing for growth, you want a story. You need a story for more than anything, because Shopify's don't go from 300 to 1,000, really just on numbers. They go on a story that people are carrying it. They believe everybody's going online. This is the business that's going to help people get online that aren't online. It's, the same thing with space. I mean, it's a story, and sometimes stories carry stocks a long ways. Number one thing, if you got a good story and a hot story, valuation doesn't matter until it does eventually. But that's when the story cools. When the story's hot, valuation don't matter.
Dennis, I feel like you deserve like some kind of reward for patience, for your patience on this one. 2 months.
On this one, yeah, I should get because I always get out too soon.
Yeah,
I always get out way the hell too soon. So anyways, in this case, I've actually held on, so which is somewhat good news. But yeah, I always, I'm great at the entries. I've talked about this before. I'm good on the entries. I've never been great on the exits, and I always get out too soon. So trying to hold on, it's hard for me as a scalper. I'm going for nickels and dimes half the time. I'm up like, I don't know, $7 in this thing on a 16. So I'm up like almost 50%. It's like, that's a pretty good gain.
Yeah.
I'd like to book that gain, but I'm telling myself, just relax, let it simmer. My buddy Chris, if you're listening, and sometimes Chris listens to the show, he taught me a lot of things. And I taught him to trade, but he taught me a lot of things too. And he taught me, and maybe didn't teach me well enough because I'm still not patient, but you should have saw me before Chris. But he said, Denny, you got to let it simmer a little bit. Just let it go. Let it simmer. Don't look at it. Just let it simmer. And he's fantastic. He was in Tesla. He's like Jason Rasnick. He bought Tesla back when it was $30 and he was loaded up on options. He's like, this Tesla story is going to be the stock. We should bring Chris on sometimes because he finds the hot stuff too. And he's done really well for himself. But, he was telling me about Tesla when it was right around when Jason Rasnick, it's $30, $40. And he's like, you got to let it simmer, let it go. He's a little bit too scalper blood too because he got out of most of his around 100. And obviously it's 1,500 now, but I mean, it was still pretty good. You make 200% of your money. Plus he had a lot of options. He was loaded right up in that. He said Tesla made his year that year. So, he really believed in the story.
It kind of reminds me of when we were in the Bright office and, a lot of us would be trading the same stock and it was long, we were all long and it was going up and someone would say, well, man, this thing is just not really going. And I could pull up the guy's account and I'd be like, well, get off the offer,
Well, and that's just a joke, obviously, saying, but like we all pass ideas back and forth. I mean, that's the nice thing about trading offices. You can throw ideas like this around. It's a nice thing about this is like a trading office. We've got, people in our chat giving us ideas. What do you think of this? I was like, I like that chart. And the story could get hot, and that's what it's all about is, community, sharing ideas and trying to make money together as a team. And I feel like, at Pre-Market Prep, in the chat, we're kind of like a team here. And I get lots of good trades, like Mitch giving us, the workhorse a while ago. We get lots of good trades from our traders in our chat. Fantastic ideas because it's so many sets of eyes looking at everything else too. So we appreciate the team.
That's something I wanted to add. And I forgot what it was. Oh yeah, your friend Chris. You say we should bring him on. He's your friend. Ask him to come on.
We've had Chris on the show. We're talking Chris Banyai is who we're talking about, not Chris Camilo.
Just ask him if he wants to come on.
Quiet. So he isn't in the public. He's doing his own thing, but he finds
We'll get him.
He knows he's following the tech stories too. He's like a little Sean Udall too there. Where he's following the tech stories and he's following the different, and he's finding the next hot story.
I think he's a little bit more modest than Sean.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, Chris doesn't talk. He's not in social media. You'd be like, I've never heard of this guy. You never will, because he's quiet. He quietly makes a lot of money.
Wait.
Okay, Spencer, move us along, Spencer.
Okay, so this is the third day this week. We've got some vaccine news. Today, the ticker is APDN, Applied DNA Sciences. They were doing a trial with mice, and their vaccine candidate showed evidence of the production of antibodies. So APDN
every day we get vaccine news, and the market maybe ignores it from this little company there, but this is what the driver for the overall market is. Vaccine news. If there's no such thing as vaccines, this market would be in the gutter. So this market is being driven on vaccine news. And again, we get another headline this morning, market's trading higher. I'm not going to say the market's trading higher because of that. The market could be trading higher for a number of reasons, but it doesn't hurt when you start getting positive vaccine, news coming out. And obviously this is a small company that wasn't on anybody's radar as of yesterday because hadn't even really moved. So I didn't even know they were working on a vaccine, this one. Did you know about this one, Spencer? APDN? I didn't know before this morning.
Not on my list.
Wasn't on my list either. It will be now. APDN going on the vaccine list right now. Joel, thoughts? I don't know how to trade these things.
I mean, this is just a perennial reverse split dog. The stock was over $700 in 2013.
One of those.
Oh, and then you just withered away under $4. Some people are taking this opportunity to take profits and take profits in a big way. Because you got over $16. Where the heck did you get? You got to $17.64.
People get excited, Joel.
Lunch bet.
What do you got?
Dinner bet, steak bet.
What?
We don't see 17.64 today.
I don't think so.
I do think
I'm on your side. I agree. Okay. I concur.
Yeah. And then we're already $3-4 off that. So I think you're going to have to pick an intermediate point in between then. They must have had some vaccine news. And let me guess the day. On May 14th of 2020, they had vaccine news. And they jumped from $8.89 to $16.39. They closed at $15.21. Is that correct, Spencer? Vaccine news on May.
How did you know they were granted the emergency use authorization by the FDA? How did you know?
Okay, so a lot of people that bought that day and they see 16.39, 16 handled again, I think they'll be willingly taking it. It actually closed at 15.21 that day. The next day it closed at 11.11. So my number of the day would be, I'm not even going to go with the pre-market high. I'm not even going to go to 16.39. I'm going to use 15.21 there. That's a lot of people will be scratch at that. So that's what I'm looking for. 15.21. Where to buy this thing on a pullback, I have absolutely no idea.
Hey, here's an item that actually somehow Joel saw it and Dennis and I didn't this morning. Well, it was actually from yesterday, but a partnership between American Airlines and JetBlue as it pertains to their Northeast routes. And, we've been talking about the airlines and the probable consolidation we'll see in the space. This is nothing huge. It's not a merger or anything, but it is just a partnership between two major airlines.
Can I scold you guys a little bit? Like, how did you miss that?
Was it out there on the show?
What time was it out yesterday?
I see. Well, the PR came out at 8:30 yesterday morning.
That's because we're doing a live show and we're not just reading PRs.
And also, it didn't necessarily.
News desk, let us know that next time.
I don't really know if
you got to yell at us. They publish it to the world, but they don't tell the PreMarket Prep show.
Yeah, I don't really know if it was. Well, also, I'm not with the news desk is all at home, right?
I don't think it's real market moving.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
I think it's important though that these companies are trying to figure it out. So we know that they got obviously capacity issues. They've got just not enough demand. So they're maybe looking at, partnerships here to cut costs. Or whatever they can do. So, this is what these airlines are going to have to do. They're going to have to get smart in order to find a way to bridge themselves until we get a vaccine. And some of them are going to figure it out and some of them maybe not. But, it's not bad news that they're trying to figure this out and partner together to try to reduce expenses and share expenses on certain flight routes. So I'm all for it. It's good news.
The only reason I mention it is because, maybe we haven't been super right. Well, you were super right on the top in the airlines. But we really, we talked about consolidation. How anything, I don't know if there were going to be mergers or there were going to be, takeovers or there was going to be bankruptcies, but we knew the airline industry is going to consolidate. And that does not have great implications for Boeing, right? Because if you're going to be less planes out there. So that's the only reason I'm looking at it. But I tell you, this Boeing chart looks kind of interesting. Let me pull it up here. You had that big rump to 230 and change. You got a bunch of lows in the same area. Even though I'm not thrilled about this fundamental news here, is this Boeing a little bit of a sleepy giant here?
I think all of the reopening plays are starting to show stabilization, and that's a good thing. I actually wrote a bunch of them down here that, just from last night, like I was looking at some of the restaurants, looking at Nordstrom, for instance. Look at this base that Nordstrom has formed. You have defined risk now. So if you want to take a flyer on JWN and say, I think, this, reopening trade could get hot, especially if we keep getting more vaccine news. I'm not going to argue with you on this. $14.50 is well-defined support, $14 to $15.
Yeah, look at that.
So you're giving yourself, it's a little bit of room. It's $16, right? So you're risking yourself almost 10%, but it's $1.50. But there's significant upside here too. You got huge support, and you almost look like you're wanting to go. And there's a lot of reopening stocks charts that look the same like this. So I'm kind of for a little bit of the reopening trade here right now. But these are trades, and I'll put them in a long-term account. But the setup here looks like, hey, I don't see the immediate catalyst unless the deaths just start to climb. And that would be what could bring the market down if all of a sudden, we start to see the deaths actually start to climb. We hope we're not going to, but it hasn't happened yet. So I'm hopeful that maybe, even despite getting a lot more cases, that we're getting it more under control, at least from managing the health of, the people who get this at a hospitalization level. They're managing it better. So I'm kind of for it. I'm kind of for the reopening trade right now.
Okay, just real quick, people that joined us later asking about Netflix here, and
we covered it.
Yeah, we did, but I just
jump back in.
I think the move is over. It's going to move. It's going to chop around today. I think if you're hoping to buy 470, you should have been out there in the after hours. I think if you want to sell 500, just think about all those options expiring between, 450 and 500. I mean, there's going to be some jockeying. There's going to be some pulling around. I don't think you're going to, I bet you could trade the whole day between like 465 and 495. The news is out. It's already been digested. They hit it. They brought it back, and then they took it down, and now they're bringing it back. So I don't know. For y'all thinking, oh, we're going to see 500, 510, 515 today, I don't think that's in the cards. House of cards.
It could be. There's by the dip, it's volatile enough. It could do anything. But yeah, it's thickened up down here. Is it coming back to scratch today? I don't think so. So again, remember, Netflix moves opposite to the reopening plays too. So if we start to see a reopening rally, you're going to start to see the money continue to flow out of tech. So if you're starting to like the reopening trade here,
then you don't
play, believe it or not, is short QQQ, long IWM. And that has not been the trade for a long time, but it could be the trade. I'm still, positioned where I own a lot of tech stocks in my long-term account. I still believe in the tech story. But as a trader here, I'm seeing some setups in some of these reopening stocks. I'm seeing a lot of overextended charts still and broken charts on Shopify. That's starting to look broken to me. Does it not look like it's breaking down to you, Joel? Shopify? Maybe the story just gets hot again. I mean, it seems like every time Shopify looks like it wants to break down, it just gets hot again and goes right back up. And maybe that's going to be the case here too. I mean, 900 is a huge level. But if Shopify is to breach 900, not saying when, I'm saying if, I think it could be at 800 in a hurry. So I'm watching these almost as, seller of the bounces in tech and buying the weakness of some of these reopening plays, unless the death rate starts to climb, and then that trade will completely reverse. So that's the wild card, I think.
What I like?
So many news on vaccines coming. Everything, there's been some positive headlines for some of these potential reopening plays.
I don't think you have to guess on this Shopify. I love your 900 level. You had a low at 901.74. But basically, you've had a 175 point break, right? So 85, right? Call it 175 divided by 2. Let's call it 85, right? You get back up to 995, 985, 990, even 1,000. You take back over half of that move, you go back to new highs. If you go up to that 50% retracement, you hang for 3 or 4 days and you don't bust through, then you have an identifiable short. Like I wouldn't want to short it down here, but if it at least got back 50% and I could short in that area and I could give a stop, I wouldn't give it all the way to the high, then it'd be okay. I lost money because I went against a strong stock that had a big move, had a pullback, and then you got to just see a couple of days of consolidation. This stock will give you consolidation. Look at this. After your move up here, consolidation, another big move up, consolidation at the top, come down. So let's see next 3-4 days. Let's recheck on this one on like next Tuesday, next Wednesday. Let's see if it got back to the 50%. Let's see if it's holding. I don't know if the analysts can move these things at all, but
they can.
Yeah,
and that's the one thing. That's what's driven Tesla for for a long time is the catch up on the price targets. They got to raise to catch up, and it continues to drive when the analysts are all on the wrong side of the trade. So I mean, that's why stocks, start getting momentum. They continue the momentum. It's a lot of times because the analyst community has to play catch up by chasing the price, and they raise their price targets and they upgrade, and they were wrong, and they're trying to figure it out. So they're just chasing price around so they don't look dumb. It's hard to call and say, but I feel like they all had the blow off top. I feel like Shopify had the blow off top on July the 13th, all the same day. Tesla, blow off top, July the 13th. I mean, and it's in hindsight, it's 2020, obviously 1794. It's significantly down from there. Apple had the blow off top. These all had the blow off top the day after Joel was gone. So Joel left on Friday, and they all had the blow off tops on Monday, and they've all kind of shown weakness since. Like if I was in Apple, I would think about ringing the register, just from a technical basis, because Apple's held on, failed to make a new high 2 days ago. I think Apple's chart is looking a little bit tired. It's ran so far. It's been too easy for the bulls. So the trend is still your friend. If you're hugging that trend line, you can still buy these stocks. And maybe that's just going to be the case again. But if they start to get hot for the reopening trade, that money will move out of tech and move into some of these other IWM plays as well. So don't be surprised if you see some rotation, continued rotation into some of the.
When does Apple have earnings?
Good question. Always very important.
You do not want to fight that pre-earnings run.
And that's common.
I'll tell you.
I feel like it's like within a week.
It is the 30th after the close, so that's in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And
a little bit.
Typically reported like.
And that's a consideration too. Are they going to start slamming them on good earnings? I mean, they slammed Netflix on an okay report, but it had run, but it hadn't run up that much. I mean, it actually got hit before it. I mean, Netflix when it had the blow off top, when they all had the blow off top on July 13th, got up to 575. Now it's 487. It's 100 points below there. So when everybody had to be in tech stocks, growth at any cost, that's what happened. That's the imbalances all just flipped to sell. So if you wonder why the S&P just leaped 5 points, the entire imbalances that were all buys across the boards just flipped to sell. So always something to keep in consideration on this day. We know that the imbalances are not stable.
Hey, Dennis, talk about how you will follow those imbalances, but not necessarily on options expiration days or quad weeks.
Well, and I do follow them. You got to follow them on option expiration days too, even especially because they move around. But you just got to know that they're more volatile. So if I see, there's 100,000 shares to buy in something 10 minutes before the open, I'm fairly confident the stock is going to open higher. On option expiration is not the case. It can be 100,000 shares 1 second before the open, and it can flip at the last second because there's huge players out there jockeying the stocks against their open options positions, and you'll see, big institutional order flow coming in on this day at the open and especially on the close as well. So options expiration, third Friday of the month. We're not talking weeklies, we're talking monthlies. Third Friday of the month. You can always expect more volatility at the open and the close as their big institutional money really pushing price around. I had a question. I want to go to my Twitter if I got a second here, because I had a good question. I just want to take this second to field this from Mike. And he said I could share the question. He messaged me with it, but my friend Mike there, he messaged me with this question here this morning. And he said, would you mind give us some of your insight on how to follow the money going from sector to sector? So we talk about rotation, we talk about that all the time. But then he jumps into, like, for example, what is the big smart money buying and selling, and what are they doing? I really want to know how the big opponents participate and how those participants act. So there's multiple questions here. One, I would say, and this can be a little promo for Benzinga Pro. One thing that I always track for big money is I look at insider buys. So you can go into your pro. If you want to bring up your pro, Spencer, we can take a minute here just to promote the pro. Because we have a lot of pro users out here and they might not know how to do this. So when you go to sources, make sure you hit SEC. So under your sources in your pro, you hit SEC, and that's going to get you your Edgar filings for your insiders coming in and your insider buys and sells. As they hit the SEC filings, they pop into your pro and they populate into your pro. So you'll see, when there's a big insider buy. A big insider buy on a stock that, maybe is in the gutter is a vote of confidence. And then a lot of people follow that, and you'll see sometimes stocks move 5-10%. Not all the time, but on some of these smaller names that have been in the gutter, all of a sudden they get a big insider buy. It can really move price. So some days there's not very many insider buys at all. I've been saying for a while, it seems like in this market there hasn't been a lot of insider buys. There's been a lot more insider sells. There's always more insider sells than buys, for the simple reason is that insiders sell for multiple reasons. They sell because I want to buy a house. I want to buy a boat.
Hey, Dennis, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yep.
I think that you might be missing the point of the question.
No. I said it's 2 questions.
Oh,
so
okay.
I've got 2. So I'm going to get into the rotation part of it too.
Well, also, I think when they talk in rotation, like some days you're like, oh, value. They're going into value. Is that what you're going to address?
And I'm sure Mike is talking. Mike, if you're there, you can just, I'm sure he's talking about that as well. So I saw 2 questions, but he's asking, how do I follow the big smart money? The direct way to follow the big smart money is to follow the SEC filings. That is the direct way to follow the big smart money, because the big smart money is the insiders that are actually in the know on their own company. So that's why I want to address both sides. I want to address this because I think this is valuable information that people don't look at. They don't use it enough. And I've seen, instances where a big buyer comes in, a big insider buy, and it can really move the price. But like I said, the insider sells. Don't be spooked if you have a big insider sell. You see Zuckerberg sell a big chunk of Facebook. Zuckerberg's always selling a big chunk of Facebook because Zuckerberg owns so much Facebook. First, it used to be like Microsoft. Bill Gates used to sell, I think it was 80, what was it? 80,000 shares of Microsoft a day or something, because he just had so much Microsoft. Like you're talking like millions of dollars worth of Microsoft every single day just to get diversified out because he had so much of his wealth and he wanted to do other things. And this was later in his life, when he was starting to not going to be as big a part of the company and he was selling so much. So if you were just following insider buys of Microsoft, you've been selling Microsoft every single day because Bill Gates was selling almost every single day. That's not the case though. Like I said, they sell for multiple reasons. Sometimes they're selling because they don't like their stock. With Tilray, CEO sold another big chunk last night. I mean, I read that like, he might not be a huge believer here. Maybe he just wants to raise some money. He's always just selling stock, but there's also other reasons too. But but what I'm saying is I don't follow the insider sells as much. They don't give you as much meaning because they don't know why they sold. Kramer said this perfectly on Mad Money. I heard him say it once. There's only one reason insiders buy their stock, and that's because they want to make money on their stock. That's the only reason. So when you see the insider buys, that's always good. You can show the Tilray sell if you want from last night. It was a pretty significant one just to show how to do it. So that's how you use the pro to look at insider buys and sells. So that's one way to follow the smart money because nobody's smarter than the people who are running the company. So at least on their own, as getting a feel to where their own stock price is going. Now, the second part of that question was Joel was taking, maybe we can let Joel take over this part because I've been talking for a long time, is the rotation that we talk about on this show all the time, identifying where is the big money rotating to. Like, on the July 13th blow off top, the big money started rolling out of tech and they started rolling into, you saw, like stocks like Caterpillar. Look at what Caterpillar has done since July 13th. Straight up. So they started flowing into some construction companies like, Deere, same story, been straight up. It's not a coincidence that Tesla's straight down and Qs are straight down and these are straight up. That is rotation speaking to you in the charts. So you can look at the charts and you can look at that same way too. How do you follow the rotation, Joel?
No, I do it more like, if the market's getting nervous a lot, they're hitting the tech stocks, but on a day like that, you're not necessarily hitting Procter and Gamble. You're not hitting AT&T. You're not hitting your high dividend stock. So a lot of times if, the big money is, anticipating, a flat period or, a down period, hey, they're in these more conservative stocks because they got a dividend or they got a yield, they got something to lean on. Whereas when it's, risk on, they're buying the Netflix and the Teslas and all the high flyers and they don't want to miss out on something. So I think I use it more like on a daily basis, like, okay, just be, when the market's in the gutter, that doesn't mean that everything is going to be sold. Your value stocks, other kind of utilities, things like that may show a little bit more strength. Also interest rates used to be a little bit, more of an impact on the market. But now interest rates are flat to down. I don't really look at the banks that much anymore for leadership in the market. Yeah, they have earnings and everything, but I think it's pretty well established that the banks are just kind of in a holding pattern. So if you want to own them for the dividend, then you own them for the dividend. And if they're in a trading range, trade them in a trading range. So that's
I group them in a value. So when the value trade comes on, you see banks get hot. So obviously look at JP Morgan's chart since July the 13th. You can clearly see this rotation. It's straight up since July 13th. Bank America, and obviously they even had earnings. And it's still, so I guess it's a bad example because they had earnings. So there's company impacts. You got to kind of take that away, and you just got to look at, obviously, the stocks that, don't have specific company news because that's going to affect their price. But on a pure rotation basis, this has been value versus growth for a long time. And when the money starts rolling out of growth, it rolls into the value. The money doesn't roll out of the growth and go to cash. It hasn't been doing that since March. March was a sell everything. They were just selling everything. But since April, we have rotated from growth to value. COVID, reopening play, lockdown plays. The money has just been rotating. So if you can identify the leaders and identify that rotation early, you can make some money. It's why Amazon was the reason. Amazon, Tesla were the reasons that I started lighting up some of my tech stocks when, and we talked about that because Amazon started rolling over and then Tesla started rolling over. And, it's why I even had that short trade on Tesla. Remember, I made on that side is because Amazon started rolling over. And Amazon actually led that Tesla sell-off, I believe, that day. So, which is funny, but it can. I mean, you lose Amazon, which is going up 100 points every day. It got overextended. Now, is the Amazon story over? No, but it's cooled off. Would I be buying Amazon on a pullback? Maybe. I already own it. I still own it in my long-term account, so maybe I would. And maybe some of these stocks are buys on the pullbacks, anticipating that the rotation is going to go back the other way. I don't know if it's going to go right back. I don't know if it needs to cool off more. I tell you, down at 2,500, I'd be backing up the truck and buying more Amazon. At 3,000, it's still, the trend's your friend. It's still up. So there's an argument here to come in here and buy Amazon right now. If you're buying it, you're probably going to be happy 2 years from now, because it seems like Amazon always goes up. And maybe it's not always going to do everything, but it has for the last decade. So following the money is all about that rotation, identifying your leaders first. So like Apple, Amazon. If there's a big tech name, Netflix is your leader today. Although for whatever reason, if you're using Netflix, it may be because it's rallied significantly from the lows, it's not bringing down the rest of the tech sector. Normally, if you see Netflix down $35, it's going to bring down all those growth names as well. So that's not the case today, though. And maybe it's because Netflix is stabilized and the buy the dippers have already emerged there. They've emerged and everything. So lots of things to think about.
All right. So we got 4 minutes left. I did prepare a very quick trivia segment. And then after that, Joel and I are going to hang out and take some
trivia. It's been a long time.
So Joel and I are going to hang out after.
I suck at this.
We'll take some more tickers, but I just want to do a couple questions because I knew we didn't have a guest, and I just wanted to. We haven't done trivia for a while, so I'm not going to play the hot potato song because. So anyway, first question. This is going to be to Joel. Joel, Wednesday was the 14th birthday of this social media platform. Wednesday was the 14th birthday of this social media platform.
Wow. I mean,
I'm gonna go. You go.
Well, let me. No, I mean,
there's only like 3 of them.
Yeah, there's not many.
Yeah, but I mean, Facebook, Twitter, but I mean, they haven't been around that long, right?
I know what it is. I know what it is.
Let me.
I'm pretty sure.
MySpace.
Let him go. That
MySpace.
That is
MySpace. You went off the board wrong. It's Facebook.
You are also wrong, as a matter of fact.
Oh, it's Twitter.
It was Twitter.
I knew it was Facebook or Twitter. It was like a A or B.
I was going old.
How do you go MySpace?
Okay, Dennis.
Does that still exist?
Dennis, to you.
I got an account. No, I'm joking.
Dennis, yesterday was actually the 25th birthday of this website. It is one of the most popular websites and most popular stocks in the world.
25. So we're going back to 1995.
Yep.
And it's a popular website. Are you kind of?
It is one of the biggest websites and biggest stocks in the world.
I think this is pretty easy.
That was a really big clue.
Well, I'd say Amazon, but
that is correct. Good job.
You were trying to fool me with a website.
Well, that's what it is.
Popular website, but it's everybody. Yeah, it's popular, website. But it's not like popular. Like I'm going there to have fun. I'm going there to buy stuff.
Yeah. All right. I got just a couple more. This is a short one. Today, actually on this day, 1998, broadcast.com had their IPO. That made a billionaire of this man.
Mark Cuban.
Okay. That was
he was all over that one. We both were
all over that one. All right. Yeah. This is the last one. This is to Dennis. Yeah. July 18th, which is tomorrow, 1968. This chip company, or computer chip company, was founded with $2.5 million in capital.
In 1968.
Yeah, this company kind of pioneered the computer chip.
How? Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
Do you know it, Joel? Texas Instruments.
That was a really good guess, but that is unfortunately not.
It's Is it still around?
Yep, still around. Still a player. Still.
Oh man, and it's like a $11-12 stock.
That's the price when he doesn't know the name of the company.
It's a huge player. It's not a $12.
It's not a $12 stock.
They're still huge in the space.
He's good with numbers.
Yeah.
Oh man.
If I get you a stock price, would it help? I don't. Maybe.
Yeah. What's the price?
$15 to $59.
$59.
That's a big hit.
Man. What does it start with?
No.
Yeah, cheating. Fine. He has to have an edge. You know, Joey always has an edge on.
Well, I mean, IBM's been around longer than that, right?
Oh yeah, IBM's way older.
Yeah, IBM's. It's some. Oh man,
All right.
Burrows.
I'm calling it. No, Dennis, do you know?
No, I already said. I guess
give me the first letter.
I.
Intel.
That's correct. Intel.
Intel's been around since '68.
That's what they say.
Mackerel.
All right, 9 o'clock. Dennis, any final thoughts? And then Joel and I are going to hang out and take a few tickers here.
Volatility is the name of the game here at the open. They were all buying bounces. Now they're all selling bounces. S&Ps are trading accordingly. They're coming off. They could all flip to buy again before 9:30. Who the hell knows? But expect volatility on the open. Hey, if you want to get in or out of a stock, throw your price out there, you might get done.
All right.
Me for final market thoughts here. I mean, you just got a ton of support here. And I mean, I know I put a little, go a little bit short term for you. But you just can't argue with this 39.90 level. I mean, it is, let me get the correct chart up here for you on the S&Ps. You had a daily low yesterday at 31.8850. I mean, little small bars there. 31.92 was the previous day's low. You had intraday lows also. So, I mean, that's a long ways away, but I don't see any downside until we reach 31.90. On the upside, if we do take it to the pre-market high, I would use it with a tight long stop, hoping to sell it closer to 32.30. But just the way, it just seems like you kind of have like a seesaw, two-way market, not a big move on a Friday in the summer. Maybe I should have stayed on vacation.
All right. Dennis is going to dip out, and Joel and I are going to hang out for a few minutes and take some tickers in our chat. I want to start with one that I saw in the Benzinga Pro chat earlier. Let's look at Roku.
Okay. Maybe to start helping me out here, like people just say, hey, let's take a look at Roku. I mean, I'd kind of like to know, are you long? Are you short? Long term, short term, day trade? Because if I just pull up this daily here, or the 15-minute, man, 150 to 155. I mean, that just seems to be a trading range. You're right in the middle. I think what I'll do is I'll start just going with the dailies here. And doesn't look as much. I don't know. I'd be worried about that top right there. I'd be worried about that top that you had a few days ago at 166.18. You had to break down to 142, 52.64, 24-point move. This thing needs to hold 155, 155 and a half, maybe even that close of 154.21. Or I look for it to give back some of those gains. A lot of people got caught long on that spike up to 166.18.
All right, someone asking us about JB Hunt. We did not discuss them, but they had earnings after the close yesterday. The expectations were low, and they beat the bar. They beat the estimates on their EPS and their sales for last quarter. Low bar that they cleared.
Trucking all that food around to the grocery stores, right? I mean,
volumes declined precipitously as you would have expected, but yeah, food is the one.
And I mean, you're probably not getting as much, air travel. I don't know. So people are using trucks. All-time high for this stock. Just kind of snuck up there. Kind of a thinner one. Pre-market trading, you're up at 138.96. And if it doesn't get to 138.96 here in a jiffy, I think you might just roll over in order to fill a gap. I mean, really, the only thing I could do at this one is maybe try along at 132.55, 133. That fills the gap from yesterday's trading. Or conversely, if you're going to short it here, maybe look to come into that area. But that's a big jump. It's had a big move from 120. I just don't know how enthusiastic buyers are going to come in. Hey, 138, 139. I got to own this at 140. It's going to 150. So that's my look at JBHT.
Lower priced name here, FRSX. This person is long. Wants to know your thoughts on FRSX.
Oh, man. Foresight Autonomous Holdings Limited.
Sounds like it does autonomous vehicles, but I don't know anything about this company.
Let's see here. You're trading up 24 cents at 180. These are tough ones. Let me see if it's just Is there any news on it too, Spencer? Because that helped me out.
You know what? I did not look. Yes, there actually is news this morning. They are initiating a pilot project for COVID-19 symptom detection solution.
Oh, okay. You got that pop over $2, initially. So it actually, you got to 207. So what that tells me is someone wants to load some stock above $2. It got above $2, and oh my Lord, big volume trading in this one. Holy mackerel. Over a million three trading on that bracket. So a lot of good news on this one. You want to see it get up over 2, hold 2, take out that 207 and just keep on going. You got a little bit of a fade going with looking at the levels from yesterday. You are gapping up. So 160 would be an area, to fill the gap. But right now you have pre-market traders bidding this at 175. So 175 to $2, that could be the range in FRXX. If to really get excited about this though and say, hey, I'm holding this thing, this is a COVID vaccine play, you should be trading over $2, and you should just take out that 207 high and not look back. So there's a look at that stock for you.
This is a general question, but it can apply to a ticker. It's from Team Flow here. They're asking about when stocks have big volume days, but they don't make any real moves. So he was referring to Genius Brands, GNUS, which had a couple of big volume days, but the price didn't really move too much with it, like in the last week. And he was asking essentially why that happens, if that's because of shorts covering, or for whatever reason, or if you have any insight, Joel, as to sometimes stocks can have huge volume days, but they don't really move that much.
Because there's a lot of people making money when it doesn't move. And what I mean by that is that there's order flow in there. They're getting in between the pennies, and they're making micro pennies on, 10, 15,000, 20,000 shares, maybe seeing some good retail order flow. Maybe they got a huge, one particular trading desk may have a huge seller at 230. I know it was at 244 yesterday, but I'm just looking at yesterday's action. Another, institutions could be saying, hey, I want to own this thing between 215 and 220. I don't want to pay 221 or 222. So you got some big orders there. I doubt that there's any kind of arbitrage opportunities going in this. So just big orders. And I mean, there was a point where, Citigroup, when it was less than a $5 stock, I mean, that would trade hundreds of million shares and wouldn't have that big of a range. And the reason was because people were making money, trading the order flow.
Mm-hmm. All right. Jess is long UPS. I want to get your thoughts on UPS here.
UPS. Ooh, trading up again here. I don't know if there's anything here in the book at 120. It gapped up, gap and go. Just 120. I see a high there. I see 119.89 high. And then I see another high at 121.32. I guess for this thing just to continue on its merry way, just get above 120 here. It got over 120 a few times in November and kind of fell off. It gave back over 120 or close to 120 in December, backed off. So you're returning to the scene of the crime here. So if this stock just has another 120 to 125 move in it, then it's gonna show some metal today. It's gonna take out yesterday's high. It's gonna close above 120. It's gonna keep on going. I don't have the open book, but I would see. I mean, after this kind of extended run and then the institutional accumulation that you had under 115, could be some. This is something that if there's 75,000 or 100,000 at 120, it's gonna take some stock to move out. Volume is consistent. It was real big on that up day from 115.33 to 119.21. You had a good volume day. Did they have earnings, or that was just a good market day or upgrade, or what was it?
What was the date again?
Yeah. 2 days ago. So that
No,
would be
no.
Wednesday. Nothing.
No.
And also I think the best thing you can hope for this, after I think that's a big run.
They had a Raymond James price target raise is what they had.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe it doesn't necessarily have to go straight up today, but best thing, maybe you hang out here, 118 to 121 for 3 or 4 days. You look for a little bit of consolidation and then boom, move higher here. But I don't know, just that big move from 115 to 120. It did go from 110 to 115 and look at the pullback that it had. So 120, that's my important level in EPS. And I just want to look at FDX, because I know had that earnings. Look at that. The earnings bump, consolidation.
Wait, Joel, I took your charts away, so grab your charts.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Next stock.
Well, okay.
Let's do one more.
Let's do one more. Okay, let's look at RCL. The cruise liners are all weak this morning. I mentioned it at the top of the show. The CDC, not the CDC. The U.S. extended the ban on cruise ship sailing in U.S. waters through at least until the end of September. So, plus Norwegian had announced their pricing of their offering this morning, but that's gonna weigh on the entire sector here. So RCL, Norwegian, Carnival are all down on that news.
Tough stocks to own. And even with this this good news that you had, this is offsetting the good news. What did it have? Let me go to the date. Oh, I gotta take my chart back here. Did it have like an $8 up day or something earlier? I thought I saw.
It did. Very good.
Yeah, man, those moves just sometimes are not sustainable. So let me just look at it in the context of that daily move, 53.94. I mean, 51.35. If this is really the bad news that everyone thinks it is, then you get down to 51.35, and then look out under that, Loretta. There's a gap from 48.72 to 51.35. So first downside target here, 51.35. After that, you got a gap at just under 49. If the street just wants to kind of shrug this off and say, hey, we kind of expected it, no big deal, then I look for that 51.35 to hold.
All right, that will be a wrap for our show this morning. Joel, you're free to do an afternoon show with me, right?
Yes, I will be.
Right.
Yep, I'll be back in the groove here, and
awesome.
That's it. We'll be back at 3:40.
Yep, we'll be covering more tickers. And I want to make a quick announcement. I teased it earlier in the week, but we did confirm the CFO of Workhorse, Steve Schrader, is joining us on Tuesday at 8:35. So that'll be our Tuesday guest, the CFO of Workhorse. Get your financial questions prepared for that. Thanks to everyone in our chat today, all three of them. We love their participation as always on Benzinga Pro, on benzinga.com/premarket-prep, and on YouTube. Please hit that like button. We appreciate it very much. I just saw a couple more likes go through. Thank you very much. You can also subscribe to our channel by clicking on that little button on the bottom right-hand side of the video. What else did I want to say? You can always email us any questions, comments, concerns, feedback, good or bad. We appreciate it. premarket@benzinga.com is our email. Benzinga Pro. That's what's behind me, by the way. I feel like someone didn't know that, but this is a live picture of the Benzinga Pro movers widget. This is just stocks that are moving in the pre-market that I use here. So that's what that looks like. You can get a free trial by going to the link in the description of this video. And that's what I got. Please remember, all the information from our show is meant to be used as informational purposes and not for investing or trading advice. Everyone have a great rest of your Friday. We'll see you in the PM.